Hey everyone, Zandrous here. So, it's finally here. Star Wars The Force Awakens. I just saw it today. I finished it about, what, 2 hours ago? Almost now? So, I took some time after seeing it to kind of let it sink in. And so I kind of come down from the high because, it's a Star Wars movie in theaters, and you always kind of have a high afterwards. Even with the prequels, you kind of like still have that bit of an adrenaline rush from the movie and everything, the music. So I wanted to take some time after seeing the movie to collect my thoughts before I discussed it, and I wanted to discuss it on here. So that's what we're gonna do. Now, in this video, I don't know how long it's gonna be. First of all, but it's gonna be both spoiler-free and spoiler. What I mean with that is I'm going to take the first part of this video to just do a general discussion about the movie, no major plot details or anything like that, no spoilers in the beginning. But once I get halfway through the video, we're going to switch over and it will be spoilers, and I will warn you ahead of time when there will be spoilers, so don't worry. If you have not seen it yet, you're going to avoid spoilers. I'll put an annotation somewhere up here where you can skip ahead, or I'll at least tell you what time frame to skip to and give you a moment to do so. So future me, you'll do that when the time comes. So be ready. So let's go ahead and talk about the 7th installment of the Star Wars saga. And let's start with my general opinion of the movie. I liked it. I really did like it. This was very much a return to form for Star Wars after the horrible, horrible prequel trilogy that has left a bad taste not only in my mouth, but the mouths of almost every Star Wars fan, or at least the majority of us, because there are still people that defend it, that defend the prequels. They exist, but for the majority of us, it was something that was just never realized. It fell so short, it was so disappointing that it just felt like we'd never see a good new Star Wars movie, in our lifetime. So this coming out and doing so well in the box office and getting the reviews that it is, both from critics and from fans, this is the most amazing turnabout, I think, in movie history when it comes to a franchise. But my personal opinion is this is a really solid movie. And I could easily rank it up there with the original trilogy as far as how good it is. It's not perfect. There are some things in it that kind of, a bit, but they're kind of pretty much nitpicky kind of things. They're nothing major. There's no major missteps in this really at all. Just some things that kind of make you scratch your head a little maybe. But all in all, I enjoyed it from beginning to end. So that's your general review. So why don't we go ahead and go a little bit more into what happens here. We're going to go ahead and jump right in. So after the opening crawl, we get all the information. Luke has vanished, and everyone's looking for him. The First Order and the Resistance. So that is the main thing going on right now as far as the background is. Everyone's looking for Luke Skywalker. Beyond that, we're going to Jakun, which is a newer planet I have not heard of, but maybe it's in Star Wars mythos and other books that I don't know. But we start off in Jakun, which is a desert planet, kind of familiar. But we meet up with Oscar Isaac's character, Poe Dameron, and he's on a mission for General Leia Organa. And this is reintroduced to BB-8 and Poe, and they're looking for this map for the secret location to figure out where he's at, and that's where all this begins. So first of all, the introduction to Poe. I like Poe. I think he's the kind of character that we really needed, that we didn't have in the prequels, and other people have said this. This isn't an original thought, but I'm just concurring that Poe is this kind of pseudo devil may care kind of guy who has a bit of an attitude. He's really prideful, and he's pretty cool. He's a pretty cool guy. And the kind of writing I would love to be like Poe. Really strong-willed. He's really courageous, foolhardy, and I like him. I like the fact that he's, you know, willing to step in and go up against the guy with a lightsaber without a second thought. So I'm not reading too much on this. Trust me, this is the very beginning of the movie. This isn't some major spoiler things. I promised no big spoilers, but yeah, Poe's a really good character. I like him. Beyond that, the whole thing starts going wrong for the Resistance already. Starts going wrong for Poe, and during this whole opening scene, we get introduced to our next of the new characters, Finn, played by John Boyega, and it's an interesting introduction, I think, for his character. We didn't really have a character like this in the prequels. I don't think we had something like this even in the main trilogy, honestly. But there's a weird parallel in a way with clone troopers with this because in this movie, the First Order stormtroopers, they're not clones. These are not the clones. These are not the Jango Fett troopers that we had become accustomed to in the prequels, and that they were kind of trying to shove into the original trilogy with the special editions and everything. But these are, much like the original stormtroopers, were supposed to be people, just regular people. And the way they went about with these troopers, and I don't know if this kind of goes back to what they were doing in the trilogy, or if you want to count the original version of the trilogy before the changes, or if you want to count as the clone army kind of thing, was still the stormtroopers later. But the way they kind of do their troopers for the First Order, it kind of makes you wonder a little bit. And the fact that Finn's character acts the way he does, because this is his first mission. We see his first mission in the field with this opening scene with Poe. And it automatically makes you kind of realize a bit about his character. I'm not going to go into spoiler about his character right now, about specifically what I'm talking about, but it's an interesting character trait, and you get this sense of he has an understanding of right and wrong that a lot of the First Order doesn't. And he's basically getting away. He wants to get away from the First Order. He's defecting away, pretty much. So he helps Poe try to leave and get back to the Resistance, though they have to go back to Jakku after post-captured. So, not a major spoiler again, but Poe gets captured at the beginning of the film, and Finn helps him escape. Then they go back to Jakku in search of BB-8, who has this special bit of information hiding, and the First Order is trying to find a droid. Again, does that sound kind of familiar? Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. This movie does retread a lot of the original trilogy, and not even just A New Hope. I know I'm kind of rambling, and you're going to want to probably skip some of this at some point, so I'm sorry, but this is just kind of me putting my thoughts together. But this movie has a lot of moments that are taken from the original trilogy. A majority of it is A New Hope, but there's also a lot of Empire put in here too. And that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. This isn't like, complete deja vu, but there's deja vu kind of here. But it's used well, I think. And so we're on a desert planet where the bad guys are looking for a droid that has information. So after Poe and Finn escape and get back to Jakku, we are introduced to Rey, which is Daisy Ridley's character. And Rey is a scavenger. Apparently she'd been on Jakku for a long time, and she's basically survives by picking wreckages and then selling the parts back to get food and such to survive from some kind of like outpost that's on the planet. It's hard to say specifically what it is, but it's like a junkyard kind of planet, and then you have like this main post where everybody comes to put something in. Maybe it's in like different regional places, but this one specifically is where she goes to to get rations. So she lives on her own. She's got no family there, but she's waiting for someone to come back. So she's been there a while by herself surviving. And she comes across BB-8, who's being captured by another scavenger, and helps set him free. And like any puppy dog, he automatically takes a liking to the person that saves him and starts tagging along. And I'll take a second right here to go ahead and talk about BB-8. I mean, he's introduced right at the beginning, pretty much. He's one of the first characters you see. But I like BB-8. It's a very cute character. He is enjoyable. One of my favorites, and he fits right along with the main droid cast. As far as being comic relief, it was a really good idea to go the way they did with them, and yeah, BB-8 is a great addition to the mythos and to the droid ranks. But you can start seeing a little bit about her and BB-8's chemistry and their friendship kind of developing. You have a little bit of development for Finn and Poe, and I'll get a little bit more into why there's a kind of a automatic, I guess you can kind of call it a bromance a little bit, but I'll explain that a little more in the spoiler section later. But it makes a little sense why there's an attachment between these two, and they kind of buddy up really easily. But they get separated from each other, and then at some point, Finn comes across Rey and BB-8, and then all hell breaks loose because the First Order is looking for BB-8, and they decide they're going to come on foot, and they're going to come with an air raid. So trailer fodder shows up, which is all the trailer scene we see them running through, the explosions, that all happens, and they escape. And then from there, everything just starts going. The movie is already on the go from that point. Yeah, it's really hard. I'm trying not to spoil it too much because this movie is just one big spoiler. If I go too far in right now, I'm going to spoil a lot of things, and I'm trying not to right now. What I'm giving you is like the first maybe half hour, 45 minutes of the movie right now. Maybe the first third, I guess we could say, is what I'm describing right now, very, very, very cryptically. But it's a solid opening. The very beginning of this movie focuses strictly on the new characters. So it's all about Poe, it's all about Finn, Rey, BB-8, and Kylo Ren. And that's the one I didn't talk about, was Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren, good villain. He fits so well here. I didn't know at first if I was going to like him because I didn't know how I felt about the mask, how minimalistic it was, and I was worried they were going to just like, oh, it's an Darth Vader ripoff. And I know a lot of people had things with the lightsaber because it's got a hilt, like a little cross guard, but it works. It really does, and he's a very interesting character. And again, I won't spoil too much about him yet. We'll get a little farther in before I do that, but I like Kylo Ren as a villain, and the backstory and the development of this character throughout the film, and as far as what you can kind of glean from his history, is good. It's solid, and I like it. You also get to meet Captain Phasma in the beginning. You don't really get much time there with Phasma. I figured, considering how prominently she's been kind of advertised, you'd see a bit more of her, but you don't see too much of her in the beginning. Or, spoiler, I guess, here, you don't see much of her at all in this movie. I think I can count on one hand the amount of scenes that she had. 3-ish, 4-ish, 5-ish maybe. You can count them as scenes that you see her. So Phasma is not a big staple here, but you're at least introduced to the character. I'm sure she'll have more to do later. Since this is a trilogy in the works, so I think we'll be seeing Phasma more later on. But as far as the focus they put on the other characters, they are really likable characters. They fit their parts. They have that kind of classic mythological fitting in here as far as like the hero's journey kind of thing, and classic storytelling. They all have their parts to play, and they fit really well. And I hated none of them. I cannot honestly think of any character I hated this entire movie, to be honest. I liked almost every character and what they represented as far as how they were acted and portrayed, the feel of them, the design of them, for the most part, I liked. Uh, but yeah, the first third is really solid. Once we get to the middle, it gets a little shaky. You have a little like detour with some familiar faces as we have the new duo of Finn and Rey, with BB-8 meeting up with who else but Han Solo and Chewbacca. Some hijinks ensue, as they tend to do with Han Solo. And it's kind of a weird detour scene, but I didn't mind it. You kind of have to have something that kind of throws some levity in with a serious situation sometimes, even though there's a lot of comedy going on, and the comedy is fantastic once again in this movie. It's great. I laughed a lot in this movie, but I really like where they kind of went with this for a bit anyway, because this is a nice little detour to kind of round out a little bit of what's going on with Solo since Return has happened, because this is 30 years later in story. So you're kind of getting an idea of what's going on there. All right, so once we can start getting towards the end of the middle section, once we get through the second third almost, we kind of come to a cantina scene. Because we haven't seen a cantina scene before. But there's music playing, a bunch of aliens, and I have to say, the practical alien effects in this movie are good. I love the designs of all these characters. They're unique, a lot of them. Some of them are familiar faces we'd seen before, at least as far as the races, and they look just as good as ever. I honestly could not find one really negative alien design, which is a great thing, I think, because I can think of some bad ones from the prequels. But in this one, it's great. Man, the best part about this this movie is there is not a single Gungan in sight. I did not see a single Gungan in this movie, and I could not be more pleased. Nowhere to be seen. No Jar Jar. No, none of them. None of them. I am so happy with that. Thank you, J.J. Abrams, for making sure they stayed the hell away. Detour over back to what I was saying, but the cantina scene is where we start getting a little more development with Finn and really getting more development with Rey. And I like that. I think a lot of the audience's expectations are going to really be tested here at this point, because this is where a big change from one of the characters happens. And yeah, it was beautifully shot, and I love the reaction that goes here with this character to the events that they just witnessed. But of course, as all good things go, the First Order comes in and starts blowing shit up, because they have found BB-8 again due to a mole being in the cantina. Though not the only mole, because the Resistance has their own moles. So they come in and they're destroying everything, killing the patrons, and it's Chewie, and it's Solo, and it's Finn, and it's Rey, and the whole First Order. Well, not a whole First Order, but a good squadron of them in there, and they're trying to fend them off. And the Resistance shows up, and yeah, this is when we get a first look at the X-Wings coming back in for the first time since the original trilogy. They seem a little bit redesigned a bit, slightly different color schemes, obviously, but it seems like they've modified them a bit from the original versions. Maybe it's just me. They kind of remind me a bit of the Z-95 fighters a bit, but it's like a weird mesh. But I like it. Although, and this is something that kind of bugs me about this movie. It's one of my nitpicks. What happened to all the other ship designs that the Rebel Alliance used? Now, this is the Resistance, not the Rebels, but it's still the same concept. They're still more or less the Rebel Alliance. what I don't know is what happened to, because all you see is X-Wings. You see nothing but X-Wings in this movie. X-Wings and TIE Fighters. And the TIE Fighters I kind of get. Since the First Order is coming from the ashes of the Empire, the Galactic Empire, after it fell. And they're trying to rise to power from that. I want to know what happened to the Y-Wings, the B-Wings, the A-Wings, the Z-95 Headhunters. There were all these other ships that the Rebel Alliance used. Nowhere to be seen. Nowhere at all. It's just X-Wings everywhere. And I think that's a problem. This is a resistance. And you can't just have one type of fighter and these kind of things when you're resistance and you're kind of smaller in scale than, the Galactic Republic's fleet or, the First Order, which is pretty massive, honestly. It's a pretty massive, group of people going on, and I'll get into that in a bit more too. Yeah, you don't see any other ships, and I think that's to the detriment a bit of this movie, because I would have loved to have seen, some work done with the A-Wings and see the A-Wings around the Y-Wing bombers, and the B-Wings, and all that good stuff. But moving on from that, we have another kidnapping here. Another person gets abducted from the group. And this is where we start really getting into spoiler territory if I'm not careful, but we're going to skip ahead a little bit from here. But we have one of the main characters is captured by Kylo Ren, and this is where we start getting into the third. And we have the Resistance leadership comes down to where the cantina was in the ruins, and here's General Leia Organa and C-3PO. So we end up meeting all of them together, getting everyone back to the secret Resistance base on a forested planet in some kind of temple ruins. Again, kind of familiar. And we are getting more and more information of what's going on throughout all of this time, from the middle to this third part. So from the second third to the final third of this, we're starting to see the big picture of what's going on with the First Order and their big weapon, which is a big ball that shoots at planets and destroys them. Sounds familiar. This is what's known as the Star Killer Base. You heard me, Star Killer Base, because they had to throw Star Killer in there somewhere because references. If you're a Star Wars person, you know about the whole original Skywalker last name was supposed to be Star Killer, and how that ended up getting reworked into the Star Killer character for the Force Unleashed games, and now they're using it again for the base. Basically what this machine is 10 times bigger than the Death Star, I think is what they said. They actually show a little hologram. It's so they made a Death Star? It's well, here's the Death Star, and they show the Death Star. And they go, and then here's the Star Killer Base. And they change over, and you see this Death Star do this and shrink down to the corner, and then here comes the Star Killer Base. And this thing is massive. What the First Order has done is they took a planet and they built a base within a planet. The entire planet is Star Killer Base. And that's impressive. And what they do is they siphon energy from a sun. I'm pretty sure the thing moves. I'm not sure. I'm assuming it moves. But they go to a sun and they siphon the sun's energy, all the thermodynamic energy, into this planet, and they convert it into the energy that this thing uses to fire its main weapon, which is this big-ass cannon. Unlike the Death Star, which could just go one single beam to destroy one planet, this thing shoots what is essentially star energy, an energy beam made of star power, to fire missile-like beams that spread scattershot at planets in a system, and they can destroy an entire star system in one shot. In fact, they do so in this movie. They shoot out 5 planets at once, and it's one shot hits and gone. So this thing's a lot more devastating than the Death Star even. That doesn't really excuse the retread a bit, but even still, it's an intimidating fucking weapon. So the mission's on to save their friend. They have to get the shields to drop down, because we haven't had that kind of mission before where people have to go in and, you know, infiltrate a shield generator and drop it. Again, heard before, and that's a theme you hear a lot, is that we've had this before, and there's a lot of retread. Like I said, that's more Return of the Jedi, even in Empire or A New Hope. So now we're getting into Return of the Jedi stuff that they're picking in here. But you go in and destroy the shield generator, and you have the X-Wings coming in because there's this one spot that if you blow it up, it's going to destroy the whole thing. And there's a bunch of X-Wings. It's a Death Star run again. And that's kind of where we have the last third, is a Death Star trench run to destroy this one thing. They have this one pilot that's really good because, you know, you're going to have that. And you have lightsabers, and you have dramatics, and it's going to get spoilery if I'm not careful. But from here, we have the final portion after the climax has happened. And it's a climax for sure. There's a definite end to this specific set of the story, but it goes into a lead off into the next movie, where we have the last of this map. We have this whole map thing done. What BB-8 had was a portion of a map, and then we get the rest of the map in, and we know where Luke is. So we have a couple of our heroes go on to find Luke, wherever he's secluded. He was looking for the first Jedi temple. You know, they go there, and yeah, we get to see Luke. So, minor spoiler here: Luke's at the end of the movie. You do not see him anywhere else in the movie except at the end. So don't go into this expecting to see Luke Skywalker for a majority of the movie. You'll see him for the small little fraction at the end. And I don't think that's a big spoiler, really. We all know he's in the movie. We know Mark Hamill filmed scenes for this movie that he's in it, so it's not a big spoiler. And the reason Luke has been away, and this is the one thing I've left out for now, is Luke left and secluded himself. He exiled himself and went looking for the first Jedi temple because he failed. He's having a lot of remorse and guilt because what he tried to do after Return of the Jedi was rebuild the Jedi Order. And he was doing good until one of his students betrayed him and turned to the dark side and dismantled the entire thing. And you guessed it, it's Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren is a former student of Luke's. He destroyed this new Jedi Order, and Luke, in his shame, put himself into a self-exile and went looking for the temple and hid himself away as best as possible. I mean, he left the map to if it was really needed to find him, but it would take some effort, at least. So I guess that makes sense. And Kylo Ren has a new master, and that would be the leader of the First Order, which is, what was it? Supreme Leader, I think is his official title, but his name is Snoke. But Supreme Leader Snoke. He's not an emperor, so I don't think they ever called him that, but just Supreme Leader. Very North Korean-y. Actually, that's a really good kind of view here, is that this is very much, if the Empire was Nazi Germany, then the First Order is North Korea. I think that's a pretty good kind of comparison to what the First Order is compared to the Empire. And, you know, just thinking about that now. This is why you give yourself a little time after a movie to do that. So, yeah. Whoa. But yeah, Supreme Leader Snoke is who turned Kylo Ren to the dark side and seduced him and has trained him in his dark side powers. And he's very CG. He's very big, though that might just be because it's a hologram you see of him, kind of like the Emperor in Empire Strikes Back. But he's huge as hell. And I was thinking it was actually just this real big kind of creature-looking thing that was just, you know, very fluent in the dark side of the Force, or very adept in it. I don't know why I said fluent, but adept in it. but it turned out to be a hologram, so I don't know how big he actually is. But Supreme Leader Snoke is played by Andy Serkis. That's right. We have a Lord of the Rings actor playing the big bad, playing our more or less emperor for this one. He's acted fine. I don't like the design of him that much. It's just weird. It's humanoid. He's playing a humanoid character, but he's just really CG'd and he's kind of shadowed out. You don't. It looks like part of his face is damaged, but I really can't make out too much of his face. Just enough. And I don't think it's human. He's some kind of alien species, I guess. But the fact that it's just a big CG creature that they're showing as the mastermind behind the First Order is kind of weird, as far as the choice that was made, in my opinion. And it's really fakey looking. Compared to all the other CG work in this movie, this is one of the poorest CG effects in the movie, is the Supreme Leader. But there's gravitas to him. The character isn't bad. Just the design isn't that good. And Kylo Ren is subservient to him. And you have kind of Grand Moff Tarkin kind of character who's on the same level as Ren as far as in the chain of command. Him and Ren are kind of like even. His name is General Hux, I believe. And as his it's weird because they get really snippy with each other and they're both vying for power within the First Order. But it's not the same kind of relationship that Tarkin had with Vader by any means. And Vader is not Vader was kind of subservient to Tarkin a bit, even though he was directly under the Emperor. He kind of had Grand Moff Tarkin as above Vader in a way, and there was a respect there. There's not really much of a respect between these two, that much. But the Supreme Leader goes to both of them as his main guys, the main generals, if you will, of the First Order. So, all in all, the movie's good. It's solidly written. I love all the CG work. I love all the characters. I love the comedy. There's nitpick things here and there. And it does do a lot of retreading from the original trilogy, taking elements from all three of the movies in some way, shape, or form and putting them together in this mishmash, story-wise. And I don't mean the story's mishmash, but it's a mishmash of those old elements with new ones mixed in. And it works good. I enjoyed myself a lot. And I found myself really having moments of trepidation when you needed to have it. Genuinely just like sitting here like glued to the screen. And if I'd had popcorn, I would have just been stuffing my mouth, not moving. I was really pretty enthralled in a lot of scenes. So yeah, all in all, Abrams did a fantastic job, and I do recommend you go see it. The emotional moments hit. They hit the notes they needed to for when you needed to feel something. And you felt it. You cared about these characters. You cared. And Kylo Ren isn't just some like cookie cut out Darth Vader one-dimensional character. He's got some dimensions to him. So, all in all, yes, go see it. But we've come to the end of the spoiler-free stuff, so from here on out, it's all spoilers. It's not the same if you just do it that way. So you know what? I'm gonna have someone else that's more of a professional at this do it. So take it away.
Spoilers.
Thank you. I know that was a cheap joke, but I don't care. So if you do not want to be spoiled, if you haven't seen the movie yet, and I really highly suggest seeing the movie first, go to this timestamp right here in front of my face, and you'll be fine. You'll be past the spoiler stuff. So for the rest of us, we're going to go into the spoilers section. So I'll give you a second to kind of click and leave. So go ahead, click and go. Right, so it's time to jump into the spoilers head first, since the rest of the people are gone now. They don't want to see this part. But the first big reveal, the big spoiler that we first get, and that is Kylo Ren's identity as Ben Solo, the son of Han and Leia. Now, there was another Ben in the Skywalker family in the original books that were coming out that are now part of the Star Wars Legends line, and that was Ben Skywalker, which was the son of Mara Jade and Luke Skywalker. But they went a different route here, and he's kind of taken Ben Solo has pretty much taken Jason Solo's part from the books as being the one that falls to the dark side. So spoilers if you hadn't read the books, Jason Solo is bad. And he was a good guy who went bad. But Kylo Ren is the Sith name, more or less, for Ben Solo, who was part of the Knights of Ren. He trains under his uncle at the academy, under the new Jedi Order. He betrays Luke and obliterates the Jedi Order with the help of the First Order. Kylo Ren as a character is interesting because he's kind of an anti-Anakin. In fact, they kind of look alike. So it's kind of weird. There's a weird parallel between Ben Solo and Anakin Skywalker. They both start off as good kids that fall to the dark side. They're seduced for one reason or another and destroy a Jedi Order. So now we're taking from Revenge of the Sith, kind of, on this one. Though, I mean, he's not completely being Anakin. This is not a retread of Anakin. There's no bad acting, and this isn't over as far as I know about love. I don't know yet. I hope not. But we don't know why he falls. But he is trouble. Unlike Anakin, who was fighting against falling to the dark side and trying to stay in the light, he was just getting tempted to go to the dark side. Kylo Ren, Ben Solo, whatever you want to call him, we'll call him Kylo Ren from here on out just to make it easier on me because I keep switching between the names. But Kylo Ren is already on the dark side. He's already been seduced. But he keeps getting tempted by the light side. He keeps getting tugged back to the light side. And he's trying to resist it. And he's got this shrine. He's got Vader's helmet, like we saw in the trailer. The burnt remains of Vader's helmet in a room. In his room, it's like an altar kind of thing, where he sits and talks to Darth Vader, his grandfather. He doesn't talk to Anakin Skywalker. He talks to Darth Vader, to the dark side aspect that took hold of Anakin. And he's like, I keep feeling the light side pulling me. I need to resist. I need your help. I need your strength. And it's an interesting reversal that we don't see very often with someone on the dark side fighting to not, rise to the light side of the Force. It's a different dynamic, and I like it. He's even got like the kind of really kind of long Anakin hair kind of going, but it doesn't look the same exactly, but you can kind of see it. And the guy they have playing him, Adam Driver, you can kind of see a pseudo resemblance almost with Harrison Ford, and they have a lot of similarities in facial structure. You can kind of see them being related. You can kind of stretch it a bit, so it's really believable. He still cares a bit about his father, and it shows in this movie a bit. And when they share a scene together. But he's this weird trouble thing, and he is committed to Snoke. But it's just this fight with the light side, and he keeps telling him about it. He tells his master about it a bit. He's very, very subservient. He's very open with his master. He's not hiding anything, which Sith tend to do, is hide these little secrets, and they're backstabbing. Even Vader hid secrets from the Emperor at times. But it's different here, and I like what they did. I want to see more about his fall to the dark side and what instigated it and what happened, because he worships Darth Vader and the dark side. He lives it, and he breathes the First Order. There's even one point with Finn where him and Finn have interactions a couple times, but near the end, in the third act, Kylo Ren has pretty much knocked out Rey at this point, and just starts screaming, "Traitor, you traitor!" Kind of Anakin acting a bit there, but he's just like full blown, "You're a traitor!" And he's getting his lightsaber. He's going to kill him, and here comes Finn with his saber, and they get into a fight, and it's really interesting, because we have an unmasked fight at this point. We get our lightsaber battle, but I do like what they did with Ben Solo, and I'm really interested to see where this goes. But we gotta go to the next big spoiler, which is the death in this movie because, again, we are borrowing elements from the other movies. And just like The Phantom Menace and just like A New Hope, the mentor character has to die. And the only person that had kind of been slowly becoming a mentor character in this movie was Han Solo. Yep, it finally happened. Harrison Ford got his wish. Han Solo is dead. There's a scene when they're trying to destroy the shield. They just get the shield generator done. They don't have to destroy the shield generator. Like I said earlier, I said they were trying to destroy it. They were getting it shut down. They were going to destroy it, but found another way around it, I guess. You could put it that way. But they're going to destroy this to help with destroying the central area of the machine that they have to destroy, that the X-Wings have to destroy. They're trying to help, and they have these charges setting up. And Kylo Ren sensed Han when they landed on the Starkiller base, and he goes there to find them. He's searching for Han. Chewie and him have been laying these charges over the place. Sure enough, Kylo Ren walks by where Solo is. Han's looking at him. Him and Leia have been torn up about the whole thing. Han actually ran away after Kylo Ren fell to the dark side. Went back to smuggling poorly. But it caused kind of a rift with him and Leia a bit, but they still love each other and all that stuff. And she keeps saying, if you see our son, bring him home. And Kylo Ren walks out on this platform, and Han's kind of watching, and then comes out and yells, "Ben!" And that's when I was like, okay, I know where this is going. And he walks on this long path. It's like just a long, great bridge, just, like a grated steel all the way across the platform. He gets up, starts walking, I'm like, don't do this, no. And they get up there, and then they're in the middle of this massive chasm, and they're talking, and their sun that they're siphoning from is still shining down. So you have this backdrop of light going over Han, and you see this kind of shadow, from the shadow version of Kylo Ren takes off his mask, and they're talking, having this moment, and it looks like he's starting to kind of really, he's still struggling with that light side. It's starting to win over. He pulls out his lightsaber. The helmet's already off. He's kind of holding it out for his dad, and Han grabs a hold of it, and then the sun fades. It's finally been consumed. And you see Han trying to do this, and you see the struggle right there with Kylo Ren. All of a sudden, you hear it go off and straight through and impales Han. He is skewered with a lightsaber by his own son. Turns it off, pulls it out. Han reaches up, caresses his son's face a little bit, falls over the edge down to the pit. Han is dead. There's not coming back from that. Buddy my one son says, well, Darth Maul got cut in half and fell into a pit too. He came back. Yes. But there's a bit of a difference here. Han Solo was impaled by a lightsaber straight through. He fell into a pit, not bottomless obviously, but to a big pit, big cavern. And then the planet he was on blew up and turned into a sun. Han Solo is pretty dead. I don't think he's coming back, and he's not a Force user. He may have had some slight sense of Force sensitivity, I guess, because of this whole solo luck thing my buddy was trying to suggest, but it's not the same thing as having command over the Force as a Sith to survive. So, yeah, Han's dead. And it was I had a feeling they were going to kill someone off, although I thought they were going to kill Chewbacca off like they did in the books. I was sure it wasn't going to be as epic, but when they gave Chewie the charge, I was thinking, okay, he's already been shot earlier. I was like, this is going to be foreshadowing. He's going to get injured again really bad. He's going to be sitting here dying. Him and Han are going to have this moment. And Chewie's going to go, tell him to run, because they've been building up Rey and Han's little getting along thing. And they understood the Falcon really well. And I could use a second in command, a second lieutenant kind of thing. I was thinking, okay, she's going to take Chewbacca's place, and then, Chewie's going to have them run. He's going to blow up the base this part of the base with him in it. I was way fucking off with that. The second Han Solo calls out to his son and starts walking on the ground, I'm like, he's dead, he's dead, he's dead, and he's died. Yep, it's gone. Oh, man. That was kind of heart-wrenching a little bit for me. But it's not, only because I saw it coming in. It's just that trepidation, like, oh god, it's gonna happen. And I'm seeing like the lights are like, oh no, it's gonna. I was thinking it was gonna make. I didn't know if he was gonna just straight stab him or like do like a cut down thing, like they'd seen him do a couple times in the movie already, or like they've done in the past. But they Qui-Gon Jinned him, just stab, but he got a little bit more out of it. He lasted longer than Qui-Gon did, I think, with the lightsaber stuck in him. I don't know. But yeah, that was definitely a ballsy choice. But I think after suffering the foot injury and then the plane crash and just his health at his age, and also with how much it probably cost to have them in that movie, I can understand why they killed him off. So, another thing that people have been wondering about, and this is going to be, I guess, some people use this as a criticism. This is another, not really a spoiler, but something I want to talk about is the politics. I know, weird, because people were tired of the politics in the prequels, but here they're not as well defined because you have the New Republic, the First Order, and the Resistance, and you kind of don't understand how they intermingle. Now, I think I kind of get it a little bit, even though it wasn't explained really well. But the New Republic is, seated in the system that's destroyed by the Starkiller Base. The planet they destroy is the seat of the new Senate. So the New Republic's been essentially wiped out right now, for the most part. And it's going to be the Resistance and the First Order, mostly. I'm sure there's going to be some New Republic left over, and they'll probably join the Resistance to rebuild again. But yeah, I think what it was is we know that the New Republic was funding the Resistance in a lot of ways and helping them out against the First Order because, well, bureaucracy, you know how it is in the Republic. No matter what generation of the Republic it is, whether it's the old Star Wars games from the old Republic or to the more democratic bullshit that was going on in the prequels, to now, there's bureaucracy and people dragging their feet to get shit done. So they're probably, off to the side saying, here's money for the Resistance to fight the First Order for us. Kind of like a guerrilla tactics kind of thing, went in and doing that stuff. While the New Republic army doesn't have to get its hands dirty as often. I think that's really what it is. It's just that the First Order has risen from what remained of those that were loyal to the Empire and then found new people to come in, even abducting people as children like they did with Finn. And that's something I was talking about earlier, is Finn's character, which I'm going to hear in a sec now. They kidnap people and raise them with nothing but identification numbers or just identification signatures, and raise them to be soldiers, to be people that work out. They're given their jobs to do, and they do it. And that's why I'm saying it's kind of North Korean-y. And that's all they know. That's all they're trained for. And and it's expanding and it's growing, and it's taking over these systems and gaining momentum. And the New Republic is still kind of, been rebuilding and spreading and reacquiring things, so they're still pretty weak, even after 30 years. I mean, politics is a slow thing. You don't have something that quick and that orderly overnight after all the stuff that happened with the Empire and destroying the original Republic. And then you have the Resistance, so kind of being that wedge in between to kind of separate the two and to kind of be that first line of defense before the New Republic would have to get involved. But since the New Republic's pretty much decimated at this point, at least from what I can tell, it's just down to the Resistance and the First Order now. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes from here. But going back to what I was going to say about Finn, Finn was abducted as a child, raised and indoctrinated by the First Order, and made into a trooper. Mind you, he worked sanitation for a while, but goes on his first mission on the ground at the beginning of the movie, and he freezes. He seizes up. He sees, these people are defending themselves, and the First Order troops are around shooting people, and a trooper gets blasted pretty damn good by Poe. I think it was Poe. It might have been a mistake because there was a lot of people firing at the First Order. But he sits there, and you see his hand come up and wipe on Finn's mask before you see his face, but wipes on the helmet like this, and blood streak like that. And you kind of see him like panicking a bit, and he's kind of looking around frantically. He's trying to avoid getting killed. He doesn't know what to do. They round up all the civilians in the center of town, and got them all at gunpoint. They kill the leader, that was helping Poe with the mat piece for Leia, and Poe comes out, does his shot, and Kylo Ren, in true badassery, whips his hand up as Poe shoots his gun, freezes Poe in place, and freezes the bolt in place, the energy bolt in place. Like it's just, like sitting here, and it has the energy still, but it's frozen in place, and it's such a badass moment right in the beginning. I'll tell you how strong Kylo Ren is in the dark side, but you see that happening with Poe, and you have in the background you can see Finn kind of like what's going on. You can't see his face because the mask on. You can feel that confusion, that confliction going on. So they capture Poe and take him onto the ship that Kylo Ren came on, and Kylo Ren gives the order, kill them all. So, and the troopers are up and start blasting civilians. And Finn can't do it. He cannot shoot it, and you can see him getting frustrated when he get back on the ship, on this massive Star Destroyer they've got. And I don't know if they got a different name, but it's a massive Star Destroyer. And they're torturing Poe, and Finn is just kind of like, he gets his helmet off. He's kind of just really stressed and doesn't know how to react to all of this. And he's going to get court-martialed and shit. But he decides to free Poe because he wants a way off this, and he can't pilot. Poe can pilot, so he breaks Poe free. They have this little plan. They steal the First Order TIE fighter and fly away. And then what's really interesting is that the First Order TIE fighters seem to be two-person. So that's really cool. TIE fighters originally were only one, but these are like a newer remodel, and they kind of work a two-person, one for gunning, one for piloting. And that's really cool, I think. I like the way they've redesigned the TIE fighters a bit. Made them a little stronger, a little more menacing than he kind of became later on in the original trilogy. But you never see like interceptors, and you just see newer TIE fighters, and you see them a lot faster and a lot stronger. Can withhold a lot more shots. But yeah, during this fight to flee the Star Destroyer and get away and get back to Jakun, Poe asks what his name is, what Finn's name is, and Finn's like, well, it just gives an identification number. He's like, no, it's like, no, what's your name? He's like, I don't have a name. That's just what they've always called me. That's who I am. It's like FN. It's like, it's the name. I'm gonna call you Finn. FN, Finn. And that's where they kind of hit it off. He breaks Poe out, and Poe's kind of this daring, badass pilot, and he can see that Finn is really someone that is good at heart and doesn't want to see this death and destruction of innocent people and wants to get away because it's wrong. What the First Order is doing is wrong. And he's been conditioned from a young age. He doesn't know his family or anything. And that's kind of where we are here. And then they get separated when they crash, and you can't find Poe, and that's where Finn has this whole big development over the movie as someone that wants to run away, And he's running, trying to get as far away from the First Order as possible. He's conflicted because he's kind of smitten with Rey. And it's interesting to see the dynamic of Finn and Rey and Poe. Poe and Rey really don't have much interaction, but it's Poe and Finn have a great chemistry together. And Finn and Rey have great chemistry together. I really do like it. Her and Chewbacca, Rey and Solo, Rey and Leia, all of these characters have such great interactions with each other, and it's really fun to watch these people play off each other in character. But speaking of Rey, we find out during the cantina scene, or at least a little after the initial beginning of the scene, she goes down to this basement. She's hearing voices. She's going down these stairs, and she goes in this little doorway. There's a door off to the side, and she goes inside, and there's this chest that's kind of calling to her. Go inside, opens it up, and there is the Skywalker lightsaber, the one that both Luke and Anakin had, and it's calling to her, and she touches it and starts having Force visions. I mean, you hear stuff from the original trilogy. You hear Yoda talking from Empire Strikes Back. You get Obi-Wan talking from the prequels, talking about, you were the chosen one. So you have Ewan McGregor in there. You have Luke talking and everything, and she's having these visions where this ship leaving her on Jakku as a child. She's screaming for him to come back, and you have are having this weird confrontation with Kylo Ren. She sees the aftermath of Kylo Ren killing the last of the Jedi Order that Luke was creating, and all these bodies are replaced, and he has some of these troopers behind him, and it's a really good scene. The way they kind of skip between the different scenes as they kind of go with this vision, and they kind of flow together. It's so well done. But you find out that Rey is a Force sensitive. She's able to be a Jedi. She's very strong in the Force. She has a connection with Skywalker in some way, or at least with the light side. And what my theory is, she's Luke's child, maybe, and that her and Ben are cousins. Because I don't think they're siblings. I really hope they don't do that. We don't need siblings fighting each other, because they did that in the books with Jason and Jaina Solo. Solo. So we don't need that again. But that's what I'm getting to where I believe is going to happen. But she runs from the lightsaber. She's offered it up by the woman that runs the cantina, this little creature. I can't remember her name for the life of me. But she's like, go and take it. And she runs. She rejects it, which is kind of a classic thing that can happen in, the hero's journey kind of thing. And then she ends up having to accept it later when she's being defended after she gets knocked out, and Finn's defending her on the Starkiller base. They're having a big lightsaber fight between him and Kylo Ren. And Ren just starts beating the shit out of him. He gets overpowering him, and he knocks the lightsaber out of Finn's hand, and then slices up his back straight up around his spine, and then Finn's out at that point. And you see Kylo's over here. He's trying to get the lightsaber like Luke did, using the Force, but it's fighting him. He wants that lightsaber. It was his grandfather's. It's his birthright kind of thing. And he really wants that lightsaber. And that's kind of part of the story here at this point in the third act, once he knows that they have it. But all of a sudden it comes flying out of the snow past him into her hand, and we're on to that fight. I like that when you look at all the art out there right now, that everybody thought it was going to be Finn that was going to be the Jedi. It turns out it's Rey, and I think that's a really good turnabout here. And it messes with the expectation. And it kind of fits. She's following that parallel too. A child on a desert planet, pretty much trying their best to survive. Turns out they're Force sensitive and gets a lightsaber, the exact same lightsaber that Anakin had back when he was a Padawan, and had when he lost to Obi-Wan on. It's the one that Ben took from Mustafar, and it's when he gave Luke, and now she's got it after it was lost on Cloud City. I don't know how it got there from Cloud City. I hope they explain that. That's really all the spoilers that are really worth anything at this point. Like I said, there's a lot of parallels with the old trilogy, and even the prequels a little bit, with the hero's journey. Like I said, solid movie all around. I cannot wait for it to come out. I will be purchasing it, and I'll proudly put it with the rest of my Star Wars movies. I really hope that this didn't go on too long for you. If you stayed with me, thank you. But yeah, this thing is breaking records, and rightfully so. And I think it could be a really big movie of the year contender. And I think Abrams deserves a nod for his directing too in this, as well as the work of Industrial Light and Magic. I think who was behind this with Lucas Limited, because the effects were good. They were good in this, and cinematography was fantastic. All of it, I loved it. So I'm going to end this here. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons right down here, and share this video around. So, might as well share it. It is the season, right? Christmas time. Speaking of which, Christmas is only a few days away. I gotta do something more than just this one video. I know I'm a little behind on some things. This has been hectic because of the holidays. But it's almost like I need to do something else. Luckily for me and you, something came in the mail. So join me next time. We'll be going into Unboxing Awesome, the first official one for December that has to do with the December box. So we'll be going into this month's Loot Crate in the next video. So don't forget to join me then. So until next time, my name is Zandrous, and as always, stay awesome. Till next time.